Let's talk a little bit about what you're going to be learning in Chapter 12. Okay, let's look at the things that you're going to be learning in this chapter. Learning outcome number 1. You're going to be able to describe the phases of the decision-making process and the types of decisions that are made. Let's talk about types of decisions very quickly. You'll find that there are considered to be 3 types of decisions: structured, semi-structured, and unstructured. Structured, you'll learn that there are formulas in place, that there's not a whole lot of thinking. It's very easily handled by computers making a structured decision. There's kind of a rote way in which you go about solving that. Unstructured would be having to make a decision. You're facing a situation that you're just not familiar with whatsoever. You've just never experienced that kind of a situation. You don't know where to begin. And of course, semi-structured is going to have aspects of both a structured decision and unstructured. The organizational levels, of course, strategic management, you're talking about very long-term decisions. Tactical management, medium to short term, and then of course operational management might be at this moment or in the very short term. You'll also be looking at the phases of decision making for each of those different kinds of decisions, no matter what organizational level that you find yourself in. This is the process by which we make decisions. The intelligence phase, what is the problem exactly? And you need to be careful here, not just to identify symptoms of a problem, but what is the problem. For instance, you've got declining sales. Is that a problem or is that a symptom? Well, it's actually a symptom. There's something causing those declining sales. It could be that you have an ineffective salesperson in the field. It could be there's a new competitor in your market. It could be any number of things. Those would be the real problem. The real problem would be either the ineffective salesperson or the new competitor. Okay. The symptom would be the declining sales. Design. Okay. What are the possible solutions? Let's focus on the ineffective salesperson. If you determine that's what the problem is, then what can you do about it? Well, perhaps that person needs to have additional training. Okay. Perhaps they need to be assigned to a different region. Perhaps you just decided it's just not going to work out and that person needs to be let go. But we've identified 3 possible different solutions. Okay, and of course there's always a 4th solution, if you really want to call it a solution. That is not to do anything. And of course, choice. Which is the best solution? And it could be you look at your alternatives and you think that, well, what we really need to do is take this person and train that person. Okay, so you want to take that salesperson and train them. And then finally, solution testing. Is the solution working? When you implement, you train the person in the implementation phase of decision making. You make the decision that that's what you want to do. You made the choice. Now you implement it. And after a while, you're going to test and see, well, have things improved? Have sales improved in that region? If the answer is yes, and it worked. If not, you notice the feedback loops in the illustration that you see there. But anyway, you're going to, and of course, the text goes in much more detail. But that's something that you'll be taking a look at as well. Okay, the second learning outcome is you need to be able to describe a decision support system. Okay, and decision support, generally speaking, we have these 4 components. There's a user interface by which the manager is going to be working with the decision support system. You have the decision support engine. What the DSS engine will do is take data from a database, and it will take models from a model base and load the data into those models to help come to some kind of a decision. Okay. Now understand that computers are not going to be making the decisions. Ultimately, it's up to the person using the system to decide whether or not the results that the computer are giving are appropriate and make sense. Okay. And for a moment, let me just talk about models. The idea of a model is most models that you'll be using in a DSS are going to be either mathematical models. You can think of spreadsheets, something of that sort. or statistical models. Okay, so decision support systems. You'll be spending some time on that. The third learning outcome, you'll need to be able to explain executive information systems' importance in decision making. Now, executives have a lot on the table. They're spending a lot of time on either working with government officials, with other high-ranking officials within the organization. They need to get access to the information that's important to them quickly. Okay? And one way in which we do that is we create what are called digital dashboards. Okay, and here's an image of a digital dashboard. Notice that we have key metrics here, and you'll learn about metrics. Okay, but essentially it's a measurement. And in this case, they've identified 4 key metrics for this particular business: customer satisfaction, key staff turnover, cancellations, and sales year-to-date versus whatever the target happens to be. And you could just glance at this and see that, for instance, customer satisfaction actually is not doing as well as you might like. It's somewhere between 87 and 90%. Key staff turnover is in the warning, the yellow area. Again, 7% turnover in the last 12 months might be a cause for concern. Cancellations, there have been 32 cancellations in the last 7 days. That seems to not be critical, but it's of a concern. And despite all this, though, your sales year-to-date versus your target is actually, it looks like about 17% above where you really hope for it to be, and that's good. But an executive could look at a screen like this and very quickly have a feel for how the company is doing. Okay, so executive information systems. The fourth learning outcome, describing group support systems. How do you get people in large groups working together efficiently and effectively? Okay. Obviously, it could be you're going to implement something like GoToMeeting, some remote meeting software, okay, video conferencing software, things of that sort. But there are many, many more tools that you'll be reading about in the chapter. Your fifth learning outcome is that you need to be able to summarize the uses for a geographic information system. Now, the text will talk a little bit about Google Maps, but it goes much further than that. It goes beyond simple mapping, being able to correlate all kinds of data that have a geographical basis. The sixth and last of the learning outcomes is you should be able to describe the guidelines for designing a management support system. Management support systems require that management, first of all, buys into it, that it's easy for management to use. Keep in mind that these are people who are, although they may be particularly bright, they're not necessarily IS people. So you do need to build a system that's easy for them to use. But also it's a major investment. Okay? And for it to be successful, you have to collaborate with management, okay, in determining what the system's capabilities are going to be, what's important to them, so that you can build an effective system. Okay, so our learning outcomes, there are 6. Okay. Now, of these, which ones do I prioritize? Which ones do I really think are the most important? It would be these. Learning objective 1, having to do with the process of decision making. Learning objective 2, talking about decision support systems in general and how they're built. And learning objective 6, the guidelines for designing a management support system. That's not to say that learning objectives 3, 4, and 5 aren't important, but on the exam I'll be stressing 1, 2, and 6. So in summary, you'll be learning about different kinds of decisions. You'll be looking at the different stages of decision making or phases. You'll be looking at decision support systems and executive information systems, group support systems, and geographic information systems, and bringing all of these things together. Okay, how do they work together to improve management within an organization?